questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on even deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch along, still the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South stay flying, keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Good afternoon, everyone. Something different, and I think it's something we'll look to do more as the season goes on. We are actually going to discuss some of the other Palace teams, not the first team. We're going to look at the women's season so far, under 21s and the under 18s. JC, how's it going?
Hot. It's roasting, man. That's all I can say, man. I'm doing good. Food is ready for me downstairs. So the second this is done, I've got some nice jerk chicken and stuff to get myself dug into. So big up yourself, Louis. I'm eating good tonight.
And listen, because we're discussing the women, we had to get Mike from Eagle Eye View on. Honestly, here the work he does, it's incredible. Like tracking the women, following the women around, and going to. I would say pretty much every game, Mike. Right?
Nearly. It's harder for me for away because I have to women's and I've got the family and the men's as well. So there's so much I can do. But yeah, I as much as I can.
Let's start there because. I mean, today was an unbelievable result, but we'll get to that. Just talk about, like, towards the back end of last season. I'll just say what you're allowed to say, because obviously there was a managerial incident, and I'm not sure how much you can actually disclose with that. It seemed like it was going to be a very tricky transition before, obviously, we got Laura in. So, yeah, talk us a bit about that beforehand.
Yeah, so last season was... We all thought in the summer that it was going to be the season with the 15 players coming in, and after we just finished fourth part-time, going more full-time, the main club getting involved or starting to. And it was the complete opposite. It was a very difficult season. At one point, we were awful, to be honest with you. We're all over the place, lineups, who was playing where. And it was just, we were struggling. And then you can't really say much about it there. We had to have the changes with the most of the management team were withdrawn. And we actually ended up picking up form. And we went from looking like we might get dragged into a possible, I mean, Coventry was so poor in the end, it didn't exist, but we could have got dragged into a relegation battle we ended up finishing sixth. And you know, we ended the season reasonably well. You could see there's flaws with our game. You could see there. I mean, it's probably the slowest switching of a ball from right to left you'd ever see because we passed by numbers. So we had like a V formation, and if you'd start in the centre and you'd pass by one person out to another, so you got one side, and then switch it went back to the base of the V and back out again. So it was. I thought we galvanised as a fan base. I thought we were the loudest on the terrace we'd ever been. When that scenario, as we know with Palace, we know when our backs are against the wall in off the pitch stuff, I think our fan base comes to life even more because we just, you know, you back your team, don't you? And I thought we were the loudest in the terraces that we'd been, and on the pitch we were grinding out results. We were still getting heavily beaten by the top teams, which has kind of generally been our thing up until this season. But we ground it out, and then it was a big, massive summer of upheaval, of change. We've moved grounds, which for us, you know, Hayes was easy. We're used to it. It's, you know, no one likes, I can't stand change. But we moved to Sutton, which actually, for a lot of reasons, is actually the best thing we could have done. And then, we took our time, the process to appoint Laura. It was done. It wasn't just, you know, we had applicants, plenty of applicants, but it was finding the right person, not only for what we wanted to do on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. So Laura's come in, and then even, you know, her assistant was only appointed, AJ, he was only appointed 2 weeks ago. Again, it's been very meticulous with what we've done, and then so far the players that have come in, it was quality over quantity. Really, we've brought in some absolute top-notch sign. We've all benefited from London, everyone walking out of London City, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, it's been, you know, it would have been easy to have a really difficult start. I think, in all fairness, we all thought we were going to have a really difficult start to the season. But our pre-season, it's all kept, most of it's behind closed doors. But I know the teams we were playing were a couple of teams in this league and teams that were the top teams in the national tier below. So we were playing decent opposition. And we could go to the Ipswich game, and you could see then that it was a different feeling to the side and different style of what we were doing. And we've really seen it at the start of this season so far that, as you say, you know, what could have been a really difficult transition, touch wood, has gone far more smoothly than it probably should have done.
No, absolutely. I mean, 7 points from 9. And even with that draw against Reading opening day, I think we were well worth the win. You know, Reading's goals seem to come against the run of play. But to obviously like just soldier through that 90, was it 90 plus 12 or 90 plus 8?
Yeah, the 11, we scored in the 11th minute.
Yeah.
It
It was a very, very late one, but I think it was no more than we deserved, to be honest. It would have been harsh, a very harsh loss. Then was it Birmingham away?
Yep.
And Birmingham were just, from what I know of, they're normally a very strong outfit. You know, just talk us through that Birmingham away win.
Well, yeah, just a very quick say with the Reading game, I have to say, I think at half time, if Reading had been ahead, we couldn't have argued. I mean, they hit the bar twice and a couple of great saves. We only really had a couple of chances. But by the end of the game, to lose, because they scored in the 88th minute, which is a little bit of an error, really. And at that time, so to get a point out of the game was huge, and it showed the character of the team because we only had like 4 players on the bench. We've got a 15-year-old keeper on the bench currently. So there was we were still trying to get squad options. The old squad depth that we all know as Palace fans this season is the big thing. It was a huge point. It showed the character in the team, and then put it this way, Birmingham were relegated from the WSL 2 seasons ago. So last season was their first season down in the Championship. They kept a lot of the team. We thought they would struggle because Birmingham as a club at the time were a mess, weren't they? But they were just getting bought out. We thought they would struggle last season. They had a difficult first half, and then they were a machine the second half of the season. And they only missed out on promotion by a point. They beat Bristol City in the last day, but Bristol City had already secured promotion the game before. And it's generally common that the team that comes down, it's the second season that they win the league. That's what's happened. Liverpool did it. Bristol City did it. And in the summer, they kept all their key players and they added some absolute quality in as well. They were stacking. It got to the point where I even when they signed Lily Ag, who I was desperate for us to sign, when it was announced, I commented on it saying that like your talent stacking, like their bench, there's going to be people on there unhappy very quickly because you've got talented players not getting games. But to go up there, they lost the opening game of the season away to Blackburn, which would have hurt them massively, and they struggled to get anywhere against Blackburn. And I joked to our group that I'd hate to be the team that plays them next, knowing it was us at St Andrews, and he's still after the 1-1 draw with Reading. You're thinking, well, because we generally, when we play the top teams in the league, we lose heavily. We get outplayed for 90 minutes. It's 3-4-0, that kind of thing, and it's the hard games. And going up there, you're thinking, you're a wounded animal. We could be in some trouble, and we were superb. It was we were talking about it on our pod the other day. In some ways, it's the best performance we've seen because we were so composed from start to finish. You know, they had a couple of chances, but we were just excellent. We were solid. We were organised. We never looked like, apart from the last couple of minutes, they grabbed a late goal, and then there's like 9 minutes of time added on from somewhere, and you're going to be under pressure away from home in that point. But for the whole game, we were just excellent. And I mean, our second goal was superb, and it was just an absolutely. I say we don't normally do those performances, let alone win. And it was huge. It's Laura's first win as well, which as we all know, your first wins in a new ground and your first wins with a new manager. Yeah. They can take ages, can't they? You've got to get them, and so to go up there and get that and be on 4 points coming into today when we could have been very different, it really gave us. It would have given us more belief. And it just shows the work that we've been doing. You could see it when we were up at the Ipswich game, and just the way that we warmed up in the preparation, before the game. And it was just a very different feel, very more professional feel to it. And so it was to go up there and 2 really good goals and to get 3 points was absolutely huge and put ourselves in a great position going into today.
And going into there, you mentioned the aspect of a professional performance, and I was at my daughter's MMA session just watching the game, and it was literally like no mercy. We are not taking our foot off the pedal here, and I liked it because sometimes when you're up like 3-0, you can really coast.
Yep.
Oh, we were like, no, don't go anywhere. And it was relentless. It was just attack after attack after attack. First of all, talk us about Durham, because you said to us before we went live that we don't like him, but I'm honestly, I couldn't tell you why that is, so I would love to know.
Right, well, I've got to, first of all, all of that is Dirty Durham. Is our name for him, Dirty Durham. So it's one of those bizarre things where it's all started like, how for a few years with Watford with the men's side, I felt this rivalry built up there with like the criminal fouling on Wilf, that stupid Hornet, and all the job. There's stuff on there, even in games that I just couldn't stand. I actually was at a point where I was hating them more than Brighton, because Brighton is institutionalized with us, isn't it? But what that was creating like live in front of us, and it's happened with Durham. They've always been a very good team in this league. And we would struggle against them. We'd always lose to them the first few seasons. And they were very good. They've got talented players, but they bully people. They bully the ref. We played them at home. And when we kind of realised it, we played them at home. And they were screaming for everything. Like a slight touch. Their whole bench, everyone's screaming, shouting. They were swearing at each other. I mean, I remember we were told by one of the players afterwards, I can't repeat the stuff that their players were calling each other on the pitch. Dirty fouling. Forcing the ref, they were goading and hounding the ref into making decisions. So it kind of started there, where we kind of saw what kind of team they were like. And to the point, they got a free kick where their player tripped over the ball in front of the ref and got up and hounded the ref so much. The ref just gave them a free kick. And they couldn't handle it when they weren't getting their own way. And we ended up beating them 3-1 that day because they just couldn't deal with not getting their own way. And then we played them away and we beat them 1-0. And in that game, I think it was Millie Farrow ended up, she got fouled repeatedly and ended up in like an online spat with one of their players about it. And it just gone on. And we've had false accusations from their fans where like our fans were accused of saying stuff. Like we're accused of saying stuff to their players, to their fans. Our players were accused of swearing in front of kids. And the thing is, with the FA player, especially when it's not the live game, so when you're watching a repeat, it doesn't have any commentary, so you can hear everything. And it was all their players effing and blinding at the ref, abusing them. We all got it. And their goalkeeping coach after the away game last season, where again we beat them 1-0. Their goalkeeping coach came up to our fans afterwards and started laying into them and abusing our fans, accusing them of making their player cry. And so there's been a whole load of needle with them that's gone on. I mean, I need to go on their Facebook page later because it's enjoyable. Because it's going to be great today. But you see the stuff, we get accused of stuff, and it's all their players. And I know there's been issues with their players and our players in the past, and there's a lot of needle there. It's just stuff that's created where they're kind of like I joked. I said on Apple the other day. They're the kid that goes up, punches someone in the face, and runs off and says it's someone else. Do you know what I mean? That's how they kind of are, and they're very, very. They're dirty. And when we played them at home last season, we beat them 1-0, and it was in that run where we turned ourselves around, and so where our noise had picked up, we were getting the Dirty Durham chants going, and I was very forceful of, because they're based at Durham University, so I got my "You're a Small School in Wearside" song going, and just stuff like that. And they can't, once you start matching them on the pitch, because it's always a fight, they can't handle it, and so they've dropped down in the last couple of seasons because other teams have improved on the pitch, footballing wise, and they're also standing up to them. And then they lose it very, very quickly. And I joked on our pod the other day that for Charlton, because I don't know if you've Charlton fans, I don't know who drives them mad that we don't care about them when they hate us. And on the women's side of it, you think when you look at this table, you think, well, now's the time that they'll get that rivalry, and we still don't care about them compared to, because there's another team that's up north that we hate more. So yeah, it's been built in. And today was, I mean, I messaged Lee Nicol in the middle of the week and said, make sure that Laura and the new players know what this means. And she said, and you see, because Molly Sharp, she knows, and some of the others that have been there before, they know how much we. And if you watch, I recommend watching the game in the player, because where we've got at Sutton now, with you get the acoustics in the stand that we're in, superb. And from where we were very loud, and there was some very entertaining songs that were. It's amazing when you're hammering someone how inspirational it would be to come up with more and more songs, which branched off from just the Dirty Durham and the small school and Wearside to
the creativity just starts flowing.
You fell when you want, when you want. And it was the old, because we never get to sing the Champions of Europe stuff. So I came out with proper football. You never play that, and there was a
I heard that one.
there was a lot of stuff, and you could see, honestly, second half they couldn't handle us on the pitch. But I'm telling you now that the noise, because you don't get it in the Championship, you don't get the noise as much. But we have a reputation for our singing, and we are a pain in the backside to away teams. And you don't, and you could see that we affected them. I think we affected them as much as on the pitch we were, because they were just crumbling. Because it is when you're right, it's right behind it. We're the stuff we were coming out with, all jovial, but it was with some relentless singing, and it was just great fun.
No, unbelievable. JC, I don't know if you probably already gone through some comments, but if you have done so, the finishes today were crazy. But JC, I'll let you go first.
I've already gone through most of them, but Cab's here saying big up the panel, smash the light, it's great content. Mitch here said that he wished he would have went, but the Heat won, sat in front of the fan all day, and I think that's what everyone else has done for the rest. I think for the whole day.
Sorry.
And finally, Ursula thoughts go out to a great footballing country of Morocco after a devastating earthquake on Friday. That was sad, man. That's sad.
Yeah, it is. It's man. It's more and more natural disasters are happening year on year now, man.
Yeah, I think it's we've been due quite a few, and a few's like overdue. I know one's due in America sometime, but natural disasters are just going to be a thing that we're going to have to deal with, unfortunately, and we're just going to have to help each other out really to get through it all. Definitely.
Right, the goals, 9 of them today. Now, Molly Sharp got 1. Oh, no, did she get 1 or 2?
1.
She got 1. Alicia's got 4.
Yep.
Annabelle Blanchard got 3. Patrick. Who's the one?
Nolan.
Hayley Nolan, our centre back, scored an absolute ripper.
Yeah, some of these goals, I'm just seeing it hit top bins.
Our first 2 were. I've got to say just very quick, the comment about the fan, I understand it. It's the hottest I've ever been at a football game in my entire life. So, and I felt for the players because they added on 11 minutes of injury time in the first half. It was just unbelievable.
And there was what, +8 in the second as well, I believe, or +9.
Sorry, you broke them.
I think, was it like +8 or 9 in the second half as well?
7. They did on 7 in the second half.
Yeah.
The first half went up because Paige started, but she hasn't got the match fitness yet. And I imagine the plan was probably for her to play 60 minutes. She came off at half time because she played 60 minutes pretty much in the first half. That's how much time they added on.
Yeah.
So, but no, the goals. I mean, that's the thing I say. When you score, 9-1. Let's just put it out there. 9-1. Is that our highest score since we've been in this league? I think possibly one of the highest scores in the Championship since it's reformed.
Yeah.
But when you score 9, you're expecting aren't you, a couple of rubbish goals. Honestly, it was. I recommend everybody watch the highlights because I watch the whole game, but it was. The first half, Durham were probably the better team until we got to 2-0. They'd started a brighter team. We didn't really get into it for about 10 minutes, and then we had a couple of chances, and they had a great chance. They fell into the box, and they tried to do one of their striker tried to do a fancy like backwards flick shot, and it went straight at Natalia instead of going in. And then we move forward, and it's honestly, I say, Haley Nolan, our centre back, she's really driven forward. It's been an absolute cracking signing, and done this great run from the halfway line towards the edge of their box, and the ball's moved on, and it comes back to her. She just shifts it onto her left foot, bang, top corner, and we're going nuts. And then the second goal was it started in our corner, we worked the ball out, ball goes to Annabelle in the air, and it's like this great control in the air, turns through ball to Paige. Paige runs on, leaves a defender on her backside in the box, lays it off, and Annabelle drills it top corner. And then after that, Durham just crumbled. Once we hit the 2-0, it was a penalty, which we didn't even realise. We thought it was just a free kick. And it was a penalty, Annabelle. And their keeper, it's weird, their keeper pretty much already shuffles to her left before Annabelle's even hit the ball. So it was, if Annabelle just had to roll it into the corner, opposite corner, because the keeper had so committed herself. And you're saying, as you say, you said earlier about, when it's 3-0 and you can sit back. And I said at half time, can we not do that? Because we do. It's very typical, isn't it? You see it Palace a lot that, we got 3-0, we'll see it out. And you're thinking, no, this is Durham. Don't just see this out, because we're all sitting there going, 3-0, we could draw 3-3 in this kind of game. It's the Palace way. And we scored 5 more goals within 20 minutes.
Yeah, there was 2 in like 2 minutes as well, wasn't there?
It was literally, and they were, as I say, they were, some great crossing headers. Amy Everett, our other centre back, set up one of them. Some beautiful headers. One was a corner. Yeah. And, we were so desperate. Shauna should have scored at the end. She cut into the box, obviously one of our own. And we're desperate to see her score. And we'd already been seeing if Shauna scores were on the pitch. That had already come out earlier in the half. And we thought all she had to do was hit it. And she laid it off to Molly. And but they were just some great team play goal. And Durham, and they just had no answer to it. And when it went to 7-0, they formed a huddle. And one of their players was pointing at the scoreboard. And, obviously using it like, we've got to sort ourselves out. And we went and scored another 2 goals. It got to the point where, this is ridiculous at football, but we're going down after a goal and we're posing with a scoreboard behind us because we're like, this is unbelievable. You're not going to see us again. The photos are being filmed. I thought you have to zoom in a little bit to see the score, but it's like we did it at 6-0, we did it at 7-0. We got to the point where we were going, we said to the guy, we'll be back in 10 minutes for the next photo. It was just, honestly, and we could have had double figures. It could have easily been double figures in the end. And it was just, to see us score 9 is just unbelievable. It ain't going to happen again, But to do it of all teams against the team that you absolutely can't stand is just one of the most beautiful things you could ever see in football, which is absolutely incredible. I lost my voice after 10 minutes. So after, but we were, so the noise we were singing, it was just superb, and we do banter a lot as well. So
no, so obviously you've got Hughes and you've got Blanchard, who obviously got 4 and 3 goals respectively. But Dennis, I tell you what a player she is. I've just learnt this. You can have a dual contract, guys. This is something new. I've never heard of it before. But we'll leave our specialist to explain to you what a dual contract is.
So yeah, basically it's kind of like a loan. Obviously in the women's game, it's still in the years to come, they won't exist, I'd imagine. But it's the idea of it. So basically, whereas with a loan, if you loan a player, like Lexi Potter's joined us on loan from Chelsea, that's a loan. So she plays for us all season. That's it. I think she might be able to train at Chelsea. I know Emily Ormond did a couple of seasons ago when she was on loan. She'd perhaps go and train at Chelsea because we were part-time then, so she'd up her training. But Araya Dennis, she's on a dual contract from Arsenal. So next when the WSL starts, if Arsenal had some injuries and they needed her to play on the bench for them, that week she would play for Arsenal and we wouldn't have her. So whereas with a loan you can't do that. With the dual contract is if they need the player, then the player would go and be with them for that game. So it'd be interesting when it comes to the Conti Cup because Arsenal got knocked out of the Champions League yesterday. So they'll go into the Conti Cup, and we're desperately hoping not into our group because our group's got 4 championship teams, so it should be the most exciting group there is, and have a great chance of a quarter final. If Arsenal go in, it's pointless. It becomes a pointless group. But it'd be interesting whether they end up using her for the Conti Cup, which is exactly what we would do. But yeah, she's great chance. She came on last week, so we saw her at the friendly in Ipswich, and she, looked great. I mean, her first touch was to turn the player and beat two more. And she came on last week and gave us a completely new dimension, and she scored the second goal. It was beautiful through ball by Annabelle, and just superb finish in the corner. And again today, she came on at half time for Paige, and was just excellent. And she got an assist in the game.
Was it Sharp's goal she assisted, or wait?
Yeah, do you know what? It's hard to tell. There's so many goals in the second half that it got hard to keep an eye on who was assisting for which ones. But
remember, she pressed the Durham left back, I think it might have been, won the ball back, and then just pinged a lovely ball across the box. I think it was headed by Molly Sharp. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's probably Moles, because Amy's assist was for Husey. So
For Husey.
But I started because I keep, as you know, I keep the records. I have done for ever since the first season, when I realised there was no records anywhere, and trying to find stats was impossible. I started keeping them. Yeah. I still do, even though the club now has started doing it. I still do. The last two seasons, the last season and this season, the Palace Annual, when it comes out, all the stats in it from me, all the historical stats and everything from me. So, but I got Annabelle's assist stat wrong last year because I wasn't keeping those, and I got told off by Annabelle because I'd given her less than she had. So I started keeping those this season. So I'm going to be busy tonight trying to update all of that. But yeah, it's mad seeing, scoring another 6 goals in the second half. You're trying to keep on top of who did what in the end was was crazy. It's just unbelievable.
Good. Just a few more questions, and then we'll move on to the under 21s and under 18s. So obviously we're top of the league. We're top of the league with Southampton losing today, and obviously
slightly better goal difference with everybody else. I can't think why.
Yeah. What do you think, good and bad? So what are the things that we need to keep doing, and what do you think actually we need to work on this to just keep that momentum? Because obviously getting out of the Championship's no easy feat.
No, well, there's no 100% record already. That's gone. Southampton were the only one who had it going into today, and they've lost. Birmingham still get a win. They've only got 1 point out of 3, so it's an incredibly tough league. It's difficult, because we're doing a lot of right things, But there were, as I say, Durham until 2-0 were causing us some problems. I feel I said on our pod the other day that we need more, like going forward. As I said to you guys before we went live, the same thing with the men's side, where at the moment with Schlupp and IU, you haven't got quite that quick, pacey penetrative. So when we were trying to counter on Birmingham last week for the women, we were breaking down a bit in the final third because you need that pace. That Annabelle needs those runners off of her to really get the most out of what she can do. Yeah. And we hadn't necessarily had that, but Paige gave us more today. RHEA, when she comes on, she's the same. And I know we're working on a few bits and pieces. So it's a bit more pace there. But for us now, it's just having the depth, because at the moment we've only got Natalia for goalkeeper. Our sub goalie is a 15-year-old. If you lose, Hayley Nolan's been superb since she's come in, and Amy. But if you lose one of those two at centre back, really you're relying on perhaps Philbs dropping back there from the holding role. Otherwise, you haven't really got a replacement. We haven't got to anyone to replace Husey at the moment up front. So we've got a lot of players who are, because you've got Isabel Sibley, who was amazing before her ACL last season.
Yeah.
Got her to come back. But we've got a lot of players who are trying to get fitness. Kira Barry, we signed on loan from Man United. She just come over from an injury and she re-injured it. So we've got a lot of players who are trying to get fitness up. So at the moment, I'm not saying we're going to go win the league or anything, but hopefully. But at the moment, you look at it and you think, the way Laura's got us playing, we look happier, we look more composed, we look more organised. It's that back line ain't changing unless with injuries or suspensions. That's not, everyone knows what their role is in the team now. But what you worry about is we are an injury or two away from what could derail our season. Do you know what I mean? That could derail our season, which would be the unfortunate thing, where the work's going in there and we're proving ourselves actually we're a really good team. But like to say again, the same with the men's side of it, you get an injury, Mitchell gets injured, you've got no left back. All it takes is, if we've still got a right back, we've got 3 people there. There's no, but do you know what I mean? It's like, we are an injury away. You lose Natalia, and the way Durham are, the type of team they are, we were saying on the way, Phil and I were saying on the way there that we wouldn't be surprised if they targeted her, because She gets a knock, you bring in a 15-year-old on, and that's a hell of a lot of pressure. So it's keep on improving what we're doing. You know, I mean, he scored 9 today. You can't really criticise. But yeah, it's just 1 or 2 more in, really. Well, probably, I say 3. You need to cover another centre back as cover, a goalkeeper, and another forward. And I think then you give yourself the best chance of. It's all about what you do on the pitch then. You know, because Polly, she didn't play today. Paige started because Polly got injured midweek, so that's another player. We don't know how long she'll be out for. So in the women's game, there are a lot of injuries just because, not to get me soapbox, but from what I've learned from my talking to people over time, but football boots aren't designed for women. They're still designed for men. The women's body structure is different. They run differently. So I know Shauna's dad was working with her on her running style because they've got to adapt it. You're seeing so many. I mean, the ACL injury list in the women's game is ridiculous. The amount of players that missed the World Cup because of it, and it's because at the moment the gear isn't designed for them. So it's all those football boots are designed for blokes. So you're playing in footwear, you did stuff that's just not designed for the body at the moment. So injury issues are higher, and it's one of the reasons why we moved from Hayes, because the 3G pitch there was believed to be a cause of a lot of our injuries as well. It's quite deteriorated. So we always get towards the end of every season, we are always struggling. I mean, last season our bench, you could only bring on 3 people. We were putting injured people on it to look like we had options. We only had 3 players that could come on in the last 4 or 5 games. And we started this season with only 5 people on a bench. So, that is really more. It's keep doing what we're doing, keep working. Laura's getting you can see already that the belief is there in what we're doing, and we can keep growing on it, hopefully. Although it'd be the typical thing: you score 9 next week, and we go lose 1-0 to Sunderland next weekend. Right? Do you know what I mean?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. We want to go 3 points clear at the top, but yeah, it's just. Which is interesting because she's not there, so I'm now worried there's a ghost wife behind me. I mean, one wife's enough, but she's definitely not there. But it's just injuries really. It's just female for the squad, and as I say, all you can do then it's what you do on the pitch, isn't it? You just don't want to have your season derailed by losing a couple of players, and that's what takes it out. It's frustrating. We all know what we can do when Elise's back and stuff. We've got some talent sitting there ready to come in. So I'd really play just that really, and just keep winning, please.
Sure. I've saw those 2 questions. One from Tim. Who's the biggest threat to Palace getting promoted this season?
Well, really there's a few. I mean, Southampton, they lost today. They won the first 2, but they had probably the easiest start to the season, you could argue. But they've invested heavily. Since they've come up, they've invested a lot. They've got some really good players there. I mean, you're still expecting Birmingham to come right at some point, but a team, there's no way now. You don't get 1 point from your first 3 games and win this league. It just doesn't happen. Charlton should be, but again, they had some great players. They've kept their core squad. They've got the top scorer from last season in the league, and they've added some, WSL quality. But they've had a terrible start. And London City had to replace their entire team, and they've started decently. So it's really hard to tell because I thought Sunderland were relegation strugglers at the start of the season, and they're second. They're joint, So at the moment, there's a lot of teams that it could be. In 22 games, it will change, but you just can't afford to drop many points in this league because it's only 22 games. We knew last season by November we would 9 points adrift. Our season was done, promotional wise. So it's really, really hard to call because the teams I would have said after them have got 2 points. But I'd imagine they will come good in the coming weeks as their team settles. So it's very, very open at the moment. Very, very open.
Awesome. I think the last one was from Pat. Yeah. Does any players have decent pay in terms of contract?
Well, I mean, we're not privy to the information as such, but there's players that deserve to be on a lot more men's side of it. When you're looking at players, I mean, when you think how much we pay Gero to play pre-season and how much he probably earns more. I mean, what he earns compared to what our whole team earns to the women's side of it is probably You know, he probably earns more in a month than that, I'd imagine, you know, they possibly do in a season. So there's a reason why at the moment in the Championship, like, you know, there are players who are still part-time. You know, there are players who they're at certain clubs, but they could probably be at bigger clubs, but they can't, for them, they can't afford to give up their, or they don't want to because they're doing a really good job, but they can't afford to give up their full-time job. You know, we lost Coral in the summer because, I mean, we've changed where we've gone more, we've fully full-time, the main club's fully taken over now, and we've moved our training to the morning, and she can't do it because she's a teacher. So Watford is near to where she works. So we lost Coral, who's a good player, you know, been a great player for us.
Yeah.
But we've lost her because she still works still works another job as well. Okay. So it needs to change massively. It really does. They don't earn anywhere near enough, you know. And bear in mind, when you think the temperature alone that they've played out in there today, and when you consider, you know, Rafael Varane was whinging on Twitter the other week, we might have to play an extra 10 minutes in injury time. Even though someone worked out that in the men's game, you see 60 minutes of football because if the ball's out of play for half hour. You know, he's whinging. And our players played an extra 12, 30 minutes in the first half alone in absolutely sweltering heat. So in the women's game, they're adding on the time immensely. So we're paying, you know, equivalent nearly an extra half an hour per game at the moment. So no, they don't earn anywhere near enough, and that needs to change massively.
Yeah, I mean that's a lovely segue into what was going to be my last question anyway. Where do you feel like the women's game is at this moment in time, and how far away how near are we to being is the game to where it should be or where you think it should be? Because I mean, the World Cup was incredible. That was such a great watch, despite the time it was on. But it was such a good watch.
It was. I would say it's a lot further than it was, and a lot further than it needs to be. You know, it's bearing in mind since when I first started going, just how it's developed since then. You can see it in this league alone. It's huge. It is coming on leaps and bounds, but at the same time, there's so much more. I mean, you're right. That World Cup was superb. You know, the last World Cup, you're looking at half those games. You know, would just be heavy hammerings, and you know, you're not. In this time, you've got Brazil out in the group stage, Germany out in the group stage. You know, you have 3 African continent teams through, which is absolutely amazing. But that wouldn't have happened 4 years ago. And when you look at like Jamaica had to crowdfund to get themselves there and stuff, it's just it's abysmal, really. But you know, so there is so much to do, and the shame of it is you have the World Cup, an absolutely amazing tournament, which unfortunately, you know, we lost at the final hurdle, and the world champions have had to deal with that whole mess instead of just enjoy being world champions. and that is the shame of it, is not one, you know, is when you see the drama that's gone through, and it's only just now got to those outcomes. And when you're watching Rubiales in his speech, and there's a lot of blokes. There's Luis Enrique, he's the men's manager, isn't he? He's in the crowd clapping it, and you're thinking, this is what is contending against, you know. So there's a lot more still to do because sponsorship. I mean, the TV deal's up this year, and I'm hoping Sky, even you, which I think they will, because I think their figures are decent, but that they'll pick up the Championship because they need to. It needs to increase the teams in the leagues because I mean we've got the fixtures. I mean we play. I think from November we then don't play for a month. And we play one game in the league, and then we don't play for another 6 weeks until we play another league game. It's insane.
Mad.
Because you've got the FA Cup, but the Conti Cup was on a weekend last season. It's been moved back to midweek. It's just there just aren't enough games, so it's really hard for not to harp on, but like for Shauna last season, for example, she got an injury. She never really got back into the team after that because you can't get your match fitness up because we haven't got the reserves games, and you don't have enough games in a season really where you can kind of work your way back. So it has improved a lot in the last 5 years. Winning the Euros helped to a degree, but not as much as we thought it would, because I think the Lionesses, what it's really done, attendances have improved, but it's created a Lionesses fan base, and they're kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters. For me, I think if you go to, I mean, I was at the USA friendly. I mean, I went to the Euros, but you know, since then I was at the USA friendly at Wembley. The finalissima against Brazil, it's its own fan base. You know, a lot of those fans there, they ain't going to league games. You know, they're not going to support the team. They're Lionesses through and through, but that's where their football ends. You know, and that's where you haven't necessarily had that extra effect because you know they don't. There's still a mindset around the tribalism of club football, which I think puts off some of those people, which, you know, is fair enough. So it has achieved some stuff. It has taken steps forward, but there's still a lot more to go. And it's getting over mindsets, because at the end of the day, you know, there's still a lot of people who go, oh, it's women's football. You see it all the time. You see the comments and stuff, and it's just abysmal. And at the moment at Palace, you know, you get 25,000 at a home game at Selhurst, where they're not turning up at the women's game. You know, they missed out on a 9-1 win today. You know, I think we will improve. I think our crowds will improve at Sutton. But yeah, there's a lot more work to do for sure.
Sure. That was 40 minutes in, and I'm just learning. Because I've even said to myself, I wouldn't try and get to more women's games myself, and then just life happens. So that is definitely one of my aims. But I'm always just keeping track and listening to your pod just to get in the insight, you know. So I'm glad we gave them a good thumping today, knowing that Durham were pagans.
Come on, Dirty Durham. Oh, 9.
Oh,
I'm gonna get it framed.
Dirty Durham.
Get it framed somewhere for sure.
Do it. Awesome. Right. Let's move on to the 21s.
Right. If you don't mind, Rich, I'm probably going to shoot off.
That is not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you. Listen, thank you so much. In fact, we'll give you the big screen. 1 second. Let everyone know where they can find you, and also about your pod as well on Twitter.
Okay, so I'm on Twitter at EagleEyeView29. I do a podcast. We do it live on Twitter Spaces, and then it's on Spotify. It's the Crystal Palace Women's Show, but again, it's EagleEyeView29 on Spotify as well. So yeah, I'm normally chipping in with comments about the men's side because I can't keep the opinions to myself. But yeah, anything on the women's side of it, I'm terrible. I'm terrible on the women. I keep hammering London City about the fact that they're in Kent, not London. So I'm probably annoying to lots of other people. But yes, Eagle Eye View 29 on Twitter. All the women's content on there for Palace. There's me and Phil that do it, and we try to pass out as much information as we can and grow the fan base as much as we can. So please, follow us. Listen to the. So if you're on Spotify, it's free. And keep spreading the word and get down to Sutton, because we could be on for a really special season this year, and it's Palace, isn't it? It's your club, so it's great fun, and the atmosphere behind now, it's great fun being in that crowd. So please come down and Eagle Eye View 29.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate your time as well. So
Keep up
the great work.
I was going to try and show me Blanchard shirt, but we better see it. I think so.
That's all good, Mike. Pleasure as always. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
No problem. Yeah, you know what? We could have actually literally just had the women's show. That was so interesting. so intriguing. And I mean, I've been to a few of the women's games, and honestly, you can see what Palace are trying to do. They're trying to play an expansive brand of football. Obviously, it's so difficult because, like, the bigger names, because I think Palace is relatively new to this, you know, so the bigger names will probably get the bigger WSL loans and so on and so forth. But they're really trying. And I'm speaking to myself when I say this. Let's try and get out to Sutton, you know, as much as we can, you know.
Well, yeah, Rihanna's been bugging me to take her to some women's matches, so you know, why not? I might do a few this season, but as you said before, there's just life comes in the way of it, man. Yeah, and also with us doing stuff here as well.
Yeah,
like we're trying to get all of our men's content out, but then but you know, the women's game's on, so sort of trying to watch the women's game while you're doing your other stuff it's just a lot.
It is. And we'll find a way. We'll find a way around this. But
we'll try and cover that team a lot more.
Yeah,
because to be fair, we don't really cover anyone other than the first team. To be fair,
this is it. So, and this is why we brought this to you. It's International Week. We thought, let's talk about the others. It's Palace. You know, the 21s. It's been a really tough start, isn't it?
So they are currently 4 games in, with 2 wins and 2 L's. So they won 3-2 against Man United, then they lost 2-0 to Reading, then they lost 5-2 to Fulham, which Rich attended, Oh no, we only
We've
won
lost three.
one. Yeah, we lost 3,
We lost to
and then
Wolves,
we
didn't we?
lost to Wolves 3-2. So 3 points out of a potential 12. It's not the best start in the world, but as Rich said, Fulham are bad.
They're cold.
Fulham are bad.
Their wingers mad.
To be fair, there's only one good thing that's come out of this season for us so far, isn't it? And that's Trials B.
Yeah, and he came off the bench that game. It's interesting because obviously Caleb Kapura, he looks very decent when he plays for the 18s. I think he obviously had to make the step up because the injury list is mad.
Yeah, I think it's the injuries and the fact that they're loaning out a lot of the players that were in that team as well.
Yeah,
like
so
I believe that Boateng would have slotted into that team, but he went out went out on loan again.
Killian Phillips is on loan. Kofi Balmer's on loan. JKG's on loan.
Yep. So all of the better players have all stepped out on loan, and obviously for their personal careers, that's the best thing they can do.
Yeah.
But looking at Palace's under-21s team, they're going to suffer this season because of it. I feel like last season, I think last season when Ratsaki went out on loan, that 23s team really started to struggle. But then they worked out how to replace him, and then they got going again. But it's just that period of time where you're just working things out, seeing what formation to play and how to play with the players that you don't have anymore. Try and do what the academy's meant to do, make stars out of as many youth players as possible. And it's right now choosing who's going to be that next star.
Yeah. And Mitch, you're right in saying that, like, it shouldn't solely be on results, but I guess performances improve as the results improve as well. But you're right, it is literally development, because we've got to accept it now, yeah? Similar to what's happened to, obviously, Jake O'Brien. We're building these players up to make a profit. There's going to be a handful, and I mean a handful, that make it first team.
Yeah, so we've got to be mature as fans and think not every single youth player is going to be Premier League quality. And I'm still under the impression that Jake O'Brien will be Premier League quality, but it's still 100% profit, £1 million.
Yeah.
And let's say, I don't know, John Kamani Gordon is a good player. He's too good for the 23s, but he's not quite there for Premier League football.
Yeah.
But then we could maybe send him to the Championship and then get £5 million. And that's £5 million in complete profit. So that's how we need to look at it. We are building up these kids to do a madness for their own careers. And also, by setting them up to do that, we're going to be making our share of the profit as well. So we're putting all our time and effort into building up these kids to then make a profit as a club and then give these guys a career.
Yeah.
So it works both ways.
It does. Like, when you look at the way City have been doing it, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Cole Palmer's had, 10 appearances?
Bro's got 4 starts in the Premier League and he's gone for £45 million.
Yeah. He's also got 3 starts in the Champions League or something like that.
Yeah, and then they sold the guy that Ajax stole from West Ham. He went for £20 million to Ajax.
Yeah.
As a pure youth team player.
Yeah, Man City are making bank of their academy.
The thing is a few years ago it was Chelsea's academy, but now it's Man City's. Chelsea's academy. To be fair, I think there's only 2 guys in very recent time that I can remember that have been successful. Is Livramento and Lewis Hall. I think very recently. I can't really recall any others that have really smashed it.
I think where Chelsea fumbled the bag back then is they just kept sending them all on loan. They should have started selling them at the time. And they lost a lot of their youth academies on free transfers. They lost a lot of them. I think they're trying to realise their ways now. And obviously putting a lot of these, like the Lewis Hall one was mad. They got him to sign a new contract knowing that they're going to sell him off.
Well, the original plan was to loan him to us.
Yeah.
But because I think they've got burned with so many players. Like with Loftus-Cheek came to us with incredible talent. They thought he was going to jump straight into that first team. Unfortunately for him, he got a really bad injury, and now he went for free to AC Milan, and now he's killing it out there.
He's doing so well, actually. But then you've also got to think this is where Chelsea kind of mess up themselves, and we'll go back to Palace. The fact that like a player will come back from loan, and it's like then a new manager's in. So that new
manager, and then they'll outprice them drastically out of the market. Like, for example, of Conor Gallagher. I'm sure if he was 25 million pounds, we would have paid that. But because they said 40, it just priced him out of the market completely. And I think even Chelsea themselves knew that even though Gallagher was our best player that season, he ain't Chelsea quality.
No.
So, you know.
And the worst bit about it is they're playing him wrong.
Yeah. He worked in a 10.
Yeah.
A 10 switching to an 8. Not a 6 going to an 8. That's not how he works. He can't pass. How is he a 6?
It's mad. Yeah, you know what? To be fair, how many players do you have on loan from the academy? 6 or 7?
6.
That's not bad. That's not a bad amount, you know.
It's so much better than it was before the academy was built. Because even before then, one player maximum, really. But now the academy's there. We're building up more and more players, and now that we're sending many of them out on loan.
Absolutely, yeah. This is what I'm saying. That where they should have been selling them beforehand, they're trying to sell them now, and a lot of teams are just like, "No, we're good."
100%.
You know, so yeah, but it's been a very difficult start for the 21s. Very difficult, I guess. Let me think. Who would be the shining? I mean, Wells Morrison started well.
Wells Morrison is probably the one that is doing the best, but I think that Wells Morrison is probably another one that probably should go out on loan.
Yeah,
because he's had a few years in the 21s and the 23s. I think he's probably on that level of he should go out on loan as well.
Yeah.
It will impact that 21s team, but I think for his personal career, and because he wants to play for Palace in the future, and unfortunately, if he keeps playing in the 23s and doesn't challenge himself in a men's league, he's not going to make it. He's going because how old is he? I don't because to be fair, in the way the game's going now, if you're 21 and you're not breaking into the first team or into men's football, your career's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay like pretty far down the leagues, unfortunately. But I think some
19.
He's
still 19. Yeah. So next season, I think is going to be the biggest one for him.
Definitely, I think the players that I'm looking at for them to shine in this season is probably Adebomi. Had a great end of the season last year. I think Eze's brother's in that team, isn't he? In the 21s. So I'm looking at those kind of guys. Maybe even Franco, but I think he's in the 18s though, isn't he? Franco.
He's playing in the 21s as it stands. I don't know if it's because of the injuries.
Yeah, and Ozo. We haven't even spoken about the injuries. Like Ozo's a big injury. I think Brian's got injured as well now, which isn't good.
Gosh. Yeah, because he was meant to represent Ireland, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Dan
Quick got injured. Oh no, we released Dan Quick.
Yeah. Adam Ramon is injured. You know,
big injuries, man.
Let me see if I can get the actual injury list.
But yeah, while Rich finds that, obviously it's a little bit of doom and gloom for the under 21s. However, if you look at the under 18s, it's a complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. I don't even know where to start. Let me go back and I'll under 18s. So they've played 4 games this season. They've won 3 and lost 1.
Yeah, that game they lost, they took the lead against Chelsea, but then Chelsea, they peppered them second. It was like they were tired. Palace were tired. Like it was relentless.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't hold them any longer.
I think it's the new playing style that they've introduced into that 18s team. It's completely alien to what the whole rest of the club is doing. It reminds me a lot of what Bielsa was doing in the Premier League, how he killed it with Leeds in the first season. How he just surprised everyone with like a super press. Everyone is up so high, they're chasing after the ball for 90 minutes. And basically, if you ain't got the game wrapped up by 70 minutes, you're flagging for the last 20. And I think that's how the Chelsea game went. But it's 3 wins out of a possible 4. So that is 9 points out of a potential 12. Their first game, they battered Southampton 5-0. Then they lost 2-1 to Chelsea. Then it was 2-1 win against Reading. And then they battered Liverpool 6-1. Cool. And standout players, Derry and Marsh. They're just too good.
Yeah, they've been both brilliant. So just before we get back to the 8, I've got so this is from Transfermarkt, and based on the 4 games this season, the players that have been injured all season since. Right, so Carlos Sadiq, Gray had started with an injury, but he played the last 2. So unless he's been obviously injured again in international duty. Noel Watson's just made a return back against Wolves. Adaramola, Vontae Williams, and Kelvin Agho haven't played a game, and they're all left backs. Haven't played a minute this season. Dylan Reed, DM, he's been injured. Caden Rodney, David Ozo. Eze is just returning back now. Adler Nascimento got a serious injury against Wolves, I believe it was. No, he came off against Fulham, sorry. Malcolm's just made a return back. Yeah, so yeah, there's quite a few injuries. Quite a few injuries.
Yeah, back to the 18s. Marsh has scored 2 hat-tricks already.
Him and Derry are cooking.
Derry on the wing does not take after his father at all. He can find the goal.
100%.
Dangerous when driving forwards and got a deadly right foot. And Marsh just seems to find the goal, man. Timmy says, do you rate Marsh as a striker? It's hard not to.
Yeah.
Really, it's hard not to. He's probably the next one coming through, him and Derry.
Yeah.
But
there's another player called Mustafa, I believe his name is, who plays like the midfield's 10 role player.
the new style of football really suits Marsh, where he sort of, because he's fast and he's strong and he's got great feet as well. So if he can keep that stamina up and keep this style of play up all season, he's gonna finish the league's top scorer. If he's going at this rate, he's gonna absolutely kill it. And I'm sure that if he keeps up this scoring rate, there's gonna be huge clubs trying to steal him off us.
Yeah, because he was joint top scorer with Julian Dixon last season, and Julian Dixon's gone to Birmingham, which shows how much faith we have in Marsh. I'm just trying to think who else has been pretty decent. What's the goalkeeper's name? Sorry, I'm looking this up. Eastwood. He's been really good. Who else has been good?
David Obu.
Yeah. Caleb Kapora. I think he's too good for the 18s. It might be a step too far for the 23s.
He's the left back, right? Kapora.
Yeah, he can play right back as well. He's short, really short.
My height, yeah.
He actually might be taller than me. You know?
All right, allow it, bro.
Take it as a compliment, bro. Obviously, Nascimento. So a lot of our 18s have had to make the step up to 23s because of the injury list.
In a weird way, that's helping their development, challenging them a hell of a lot more.
You know, and I think obviously they're going to have the International Cup again, that will be
the Youth Cup, right?
Yeah, is it still at Dulwich Hamlet? The first?
I think so. And remember what happened with us previously. One significant player that proved himself in the Youth Cup and then got some first team football after that was Wilfred Zaha. So Youth Cup is a very, very, very big competition when it comes to us and our youth players, because a few players have actually come through because of that. I'm sure that Moses was. I don't think it was a Youth Cup, but I think he had a good time in that cup and then had a really good season after that. So this time in the season is going to be really stating your name to the club and the higher ups and say, look, put faith in me and I'll be your guy in a few years.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, hey, listen, he just scores bare goals. And the thing is, fair play to him, he gets assists as well, you know.
Yeah, man.
He's had a very good start to the season. Where did we get his brother from?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Let me see if I can search that.
But currently, as Rich searches it up, we are joint top of the league with Chelsea and Villa and Fulham. Oh no, we are only joint top with Chelsea because of goal difference, because they are +5 as well as us. But Chelsea have a game in hand.
He was at QPR under 18s. Then the 21-22 season, he had no club.
Oh, wow. Potentially, could that be a thing of signing him up to maybe persuade Eze in for a new deal? If he had no club, pick him up.
Hopefully. And if he plays anything like his brother does, boy.
Cool. Well, saying that, Eze was doing his madness when he was, 20 in the championship? So, bro's only got, 2 years of training, and then it's really his time to shine, isn't it?
100%. 100%. I guess last bit before we wrap up. Mark Gay had a fantastic performance yesterday, man.
He was incredible. He was the only one on FootMob to get over a 7. Yeah. Only one with a green rating. He got a green rating and he got a hug off Maguire.
Yeah, he was brilliant. It's once again, Eze doesn't come like it's almost as if he's got his cap now and that's it. He's done.
The thing is, that in the later stages of that game, it was screaming for Eze, man.
Yeah.
To break down that low block, because Zinchenko was sweeping up everything in that midfield when he wasn't playing at left back, and it was screaming out for someone like Eze to just pull the strings, get things moving, dribble through midfield. But it just was trying to go through Rashford too much, trying to go out wide when they're just getting crowded out. It just wasn't the right game plan, and maybe with I guess playing against better teams, maybe, but I think that Eze should have maybe held back a bit. I'm still under the impression that I think that he should have went with Nigeria. I know there's a lot of politics about African football.
Yeah, there is a lot, to be fair.
And like certain players, they want to play for their country, but it's just a politics thing where they just don't want to deal with it. Because was it something like Callum Hudson-Odoi wanted to play, but he wasn't going to be guaranteed game time.
It was such drama. It was so stupid as well.
And it's not just Ghana, it's Nigeria, it's other teams as well. But I think Eze's he's probably made the best choice in his head. But I think I know as well as you know that he's not going to be playing in that team unless he plays for a Big Six team.
Yeah.
Unless Eze's playing for Spurs, Man United, Man City, Arsenal, he's not getting in that starting 11, is he?
That's pretty much it.
I think Mark Gay might be the exception.
Yeah, but what happens when Stones returns?
But when Stones comes back, Mark's been thrown onto the bench straight away. And to be fair, I think even then, and I know he's a ex-Brighton, but I think even Colwell's been done hard done by.
Yeah, he's had a good such a season.
Even Lewis Dunk has been hard done by here as well, because he's even better than Maguire, and he's probably been playing his best football for the last 3 years in a row, and he's still only getting his call up now. So there's players that can play centre back, but this love affair of Maguire needs to stop, man.
Yeah, this is what for me personally, and number one, I follow Ghana because that's obviously like heritage and stuff. But I find it, I do want England to do well, but I get so frustrated. Like, I find it hard to really just, not that I won't back them or not support them, but just like you see players playing for their clubs and they're doing the hardest, like they're proper trying. But then you think, what's the point? Like, I know Pickford for England's good, but he will have stinkers for Everton. Granted, he's had also saved Everton a lot of times. So why is Johnston not getting a good shot? I think there was a season Pope was doing a madness. I don't think he played one game. And now his form's dipped. He's probably thinking, what's the point? You know? The centre-backs are thinking, well, Maguire's going to start. What's the point? Jordan Henderson's still getting minutes. Like, why? Against Ukraine.
Yeah. Starting as well. Not even minutes. He's starting.
It's crazy. Sterling, like, I'm not his biggest fan, like, because he's been terrible like the last 2-3 seasons. But it's funny how when he was terrible, he was starting, and the moment he's actually good, he doesn't get called up. You know, where's Jack Grealish?
I said this to you many times before, and I think I say it every international break. I couldn't care less about international football. I really couldn't.
Mm.
Like when we lost the Euros and everyone was crying about it, I couldn't care less. I really couldn't. Even if we lost in the World Cup final, I couldn't care less.
I don't do that, Mitch. It's gonna happen.
Rich, tell me if I'm lying. Did I not say this a few years ago? I said this a few years ago. When Southgate gets sacked, he's going to be the Palace manager.
It's gonna happen. I'm already pre-prepping my mind for it.
Oh man, if this guy is killing Eze
In international
for England, yeah, it's going to be like Vieira all over again, man.
I'm just gonna be like,
Bro, we're gonna have to sell Eze before Southgate comes in. Bro, we're gonna buy Maguire. You know, that's just gonna happen. We're gonna buy Maguire and then a washed-up Kyle Walker when he's like 37. That's what we're gonna do.
oh boy.
Oh man.
Big up Miss Melina, hope you're well. Okay, well, Arsenal are doing very well at the moment, to be fair to them.
Yeah.
And I think Dano's still sliding.
the memes off of that Jesus cutback was
It's
crazy, man.
Honest. I do not want to see Southgate. I don't.
We don't want to see it, but we know it's gonna happen. Man was there at the unveiling. Man's always at Selhurst Park.
Oh no, thank you, Melina. Yeah, it was like he had contacted us and said that he was coming down, and we were just like, yeah, if you make the game, you know, come chat to us at the end. And he took his time to speak to us, which was nice of him. Really, really cool guy. Really, really cool guy. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. You know what? I don't know if we can get many of these live, but I think we should try and cover. We'll do our best to cover like the 21s and the 18s and the women's.
Yeah,
we'll figure out how to do this.
I think there should be more platforms to get fans' thoughts on other teams other than the first team. Because even the first team, there really ain't that much Palace channels out there. So if we can cover more, we're going to try and cover more of the other teams.
Yeah, we'll do our best to do.
Fans just need a voice in all parts of the team, really, and not just the first team.
Absolutely. And to be fair, like you said, the first 40 minutes was lovely hearing about the women and how well they're doing as well. So, yeah, I enjoyed this.
Definitely.
And as you say that, we're back to first team action tomorrow.
Well, first team action tomorrow. we said we briefly touched on it. What went well? What needs to be changed? We all know what needs to be changed.
Yeah, so we're going to cover this tomorrow. We're going to cover this. We're 7 o'clock, right?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, how we should. You know, it's been a good start to the season. 7 points from 12.
Yeah, and I think looking at the games that we've got ahead of us, We've got a Man United double header in the cup and in the league in the same week. Both at Old Trafford as well, which is a bit mad, but it is what it is, man. We had a good start, and that stream is basically just going to be how can we keep up this good start?
Yeah.
What went well? What needs to be changed? And what are the thoughts on the season to come? Really,
We need to win those home games. But I'll say that's all I'm going to say for now.
I'm not going to say nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Alright, guys, like, share, subscribe as always. Thank you for your support, and even thank you for even just tuning in when we've had these tier lists to just fill time and and whatnot. But yeah, we are back to regular Palace content from tomorrow. Premier League review will be slightly different. I know Nicky's got an idea for it. On Tuesday, Tactical for Villa game will be back on Wednesday. The Villa previews on Thursday. I'm gonna miss that at my wedding, by the way.
Okay.
So if you do need to reschedule, let me know. Presser will be either Friday or Saturday, depending on where it does it. Well, it should be on a Friday. And yeah, then
The review will probably be the day after the game.
Sunday, yeah. Because then we'll away to Villa. So yeah.
Cool.
Guys, up the Palace.
Schlapp should hold bench.